have some explanation for that. We have none. Don't worry. Continue your program. Oh boy, it's really something super fantastic here. You couldn't ever imagine this. Roger. We know about that. Could you go the other way? Go back the other way.
Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the world's biggest digital space conference this year, organized by STNX and Helium Learning Labs. My name is Sakshi, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Space Development Nexus and your host for today. This year's theme, the role of space education and research in emerging nations, was adopted to put a spotlight on the space activities in emerging nations and empower them further. We expect that through this summit, the students and young space professionals can get guidance with their education and career. STNX Foundation was established in the year 2013 with the purpose of making space accessible to everyone through its initiatives and educational projects supported by research and development. Helium Learning Labs, who are our organizing partner, are an edtech company that aims to establish a world-class digital space school to fill the gap between space education and the space industry, to train students for the future space workforce. Now, introducing our speaker for today, Aastha Kacha is an award-winning space architect, founder of AAKA Space Architects, TEDx speaker, and a philanthropist. She has been appreciated for her contributions in the industry with awards like Global Icon Award as India's youngest icon in space architecture, Lunar Base Award, and the other international and national accolades in design. Thank you, Aastha, for joining us today. It is so wonderful to have you here. Please go ahead and introduce yourself and start your presentation. Aastha, your mic.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sakshi, for the great introduction. And it is always an honor for me to represent India and talk on this such an amazing platform. Maybe I can share my screen now. And I hope everybody is having a wonderful Saturday morning in India and across the globe. So, before I start on with the presentation, I would like to introduce myself, that how did I went into space architecture, what inspired me, and how all of this journey started. It all started before 13 years. I was born in India, and during my school years, we had an opportunity to attend a NASA Space Academy. So I went there in the year of 2010, and during that academy, we were given a lot of different, very interesting tasks. But the most interesting one was to design something on the lunar base. And I designed a fuel station thinking that we might run out of the fuel while coming back to the Earth. And I got an award for that. In that moment, I got vitalized to pursue space architecture, but there was no options to study space architecture in that time. So I went on to study architecture from UK, then to Denmark, then I lived for some time in Africa doing my internship. And then I self-taught a lot of my subjects, for example, system engineering, designing for zero gravity, habitat functions, different kind of material science for space habitation, and so and so. And then again, because I was from India, I didn't have enough opportunities to enter space sector in US, as NASA is the biggest hub in the space sector. I thought of founding my own AAKA Space Studio, because I was receiving an amazing output of my projects. So I'm going to show all of those projects in some time as well. So first, I would like to talk about space in India. India is the sixth largest space sector in the world, and we are all aware of this India's wonder in Chandrayaan missions, and also upcoming Gaganyaan 1, 2 Chandrayaan missions, and also the Mangalyaan missions. And there hasn't been enough development into space architecture in India yet. So I would like to also introduce what exactly is space architecture about, and why do we need to have that in India. So till now, for those who hasn't had a quick glance at the history of India's space sector, let me tell you this, that India had 123 spacecrafts launched. And the first one was Aryabhatta's first satellite launch, and it was through Soviet's Cosmos in 1875. There has been also 82 launchers after that. The most prominent mission was Chandrayaan 1, and we are all aware of that mission. And one of the most scientific objective was to map the location of the water around the lunar base. And then we had this Mars orbital mission. India was one of the first Asian country to have this, to make a successful Mars orbital mission. and this happened in 2014. Then we also have this upcoming amazing missions, that Chandrayaan 3, Gaganyaan 1, Gaganyaan 2, 3, Shukrayaan, that is a orbiter around the Venus. Then we have Mangalyaan 2, Lunar Polar Exploration Mission. So as we can see, there is so much coming up. And also India has recently said that ISRO is planning on to building their own international space station. And that is where space architecture plays a very prominent role. So, space architecture is about designing, considering a lot of different disciplines, such as sociology, psychology, physiology, and engineering combined along, and then a design is an output result. So, it is a very emerging discipline, and so most of the practitioners are self-made, and they have self-directed this career path. But before, I think, to achieve any of our goals, one must needs to be self-motivated. Without that, we cannot go towards the end of our goal. So that is very important. And along with space architecture, there are also a lot of different emerging disciplines. For example, space medicine, astrobiology, astrochemistry, space law, forensic astronomy, and space archaeology. Because at some point, I think we are also going to start doing the space mining. So it's coming up. And that's why it's very much important. I believe that space is for everyone. And it is so important for every nation to be able to afford to go to the space. And that's why sharing knowledge and sharing our experience is what keeps us on the track towards this mission. There are a lot of also responsibilities of being a space architect. Personally, from my own, these are some of the things that I've written from my own personal experience. So we have to include all the overall areas, from space projects to mission development. And I haven't had a chance to really design a robotic rover or a probe design, but I have been designing lunar and Mars habitats. And to understand, to be able to design Mars and lunar habitats, first we need to understand the planetary science, how the atmosphere is, how the soil conditions are, what are the resources available there. And also we have to consider that how are we going, if we are carrying a habitat from the Earth to the Mars or to the Moon base, we need to also understand a lot of payload considerations. So that is lunar and Mars design. Then also launch facilities planning and construction. Are we going to construct on some other planetary surface or on the Earth, and then we are going to transport it? Also, underwater and simulated microgravity testing is a must, also because astronauts are also trained underwater to be able to perform well in the microgravity or zero gravity. And system measuring plays a very important role, because that's when we know that what kind of systems we will need to integrate into any space missions or inside a space habitat. For example, life system supports, EVA equipments, and so and so. These days, there is also huge development over aeroponics and hydroponics. And then space mission and control support. So these are some of the very key responsibilities of being a space architect. I would like to introduce AAKA, because AAKA has been my life goal. We started AAKA just 3 months before, and we have been doing such an amazing progress about it. AAKA is one of the first company in Canada to start a space architecture studio, and also it's going to be one of the first in India as well in the next month. So it is a new design practice that we are designing to design interactive human-centered living spaces, which will integrate all this technical comprehension into projects across the globe for the space missions. And we are doing this with people from very different various backgrounds. We are trying to build an intermediate shelter that can be carried in. We are trying to design that considering Elon Musk SN15 Starship, and before 3D printing, which is going to be the permanent settlement on lunar base or the Mars base. So we are trying to develop an intermediate shelter between the two, and that's what AAKA is about. We are also developing habitats for extreme environment. And when we are designing for space or any kind of space mission, it is very important to keep the cost into our mind, because the more cost effective any mission is, the more we are able to do it again and again. And here is a very quick glance at AAKA. So this is just to inspire. We are just sharing our teammates just to inspire everybody that I know that there might be some people who are not from space background, but they want to enter the sector, or some wants to pursue a career into this. So our team includes a lot of different members. We have some nuclear engineers. We have uh, PhD doctors in deployable structures who are specialized in that. Some technology strategists, aerospace engineers, industrial designer, and space architects. So everybody is welcome at some point to enter into space who has enough motivation to learn new space subjects. And this is so when we are designing a space habitat, there are two types of structures which are still yet to be uh, discovered in India. One is the inflatable structures. They are like a balloon. So when we blow an air inside the balloon, it just blows up, and then we have to maintain that structure with the atmospheric pressure. So what happens in this case is there are a lot of advantages. One is a maximum volume can be compressed for a very minimum mass, which saves us a huge space in the rocket or in the spaceship. Then it is very much portable. It has low system complexity, and it is very simple deployment, as you can see in this video. And at AAKA, we are solely focused on origami structures. This project is not from AAKA, but a very well-established firm called Saga Space Architects. And what origami also has a very similar advantages over inflatable structures, because they can also be easily deployed, easily collapsed, and they are also very much portable. We can design these habitats into various shapes and sizes, and it has a very tunable geometric and kinematic properties. That said, that like there can be a lot of variations into the design. So when we're designing space habitats, first of all, why do we need a space habitat? If we are planning on to staying in the space, we need a space habitat. One of the most established and prominent space habitat is International Space Station, and it has a lot of different modules docked together in a tunnel shaped. And this is the pictures on the right are some glimpses of the International Space Station. For the first one is the astronauts sleeping in a space station. This is how they sleep. There is no floor, and because there is they are in the vacuum, there is no gravity. Also, the walls, floors, and roof, everything is being utilized as a building component. And then we have this toilet in the space station. So it is very different, very interesting. Any space habitat will have kind of very similar functions that any habitat will have on the Earth. For example, in the space habitat, we also need to have sleeping quarters, washrooms, biolabs, chemical labs, communication room, recreation area. But the only thing is they will be designed a little bit differently. Let's say, for example, when we are designing for reduced gravity, then we need to have the staircase. The staircase will act very different in the reduced gravity. They will be at a certain angle. So there are some different considerations. Also, when you see the picture on your left side of on the top, these diagrams, when we are designing space habitats, we are calculating in terms of volumes and not in areas, feet or inches. So because our body reacts very differently when we are in the reduced gravity. So this is the main and a very crucial thing to consider when we are designing a space habitat. Materials play also very crucial role, because when we are outside of the Earth, first of all we have to fight radiation. There is a radiation, there is no atmosphere, there are space dangers, space debris dangers. For example, the lunar dust is all silicate glass, very tiny silicate glass materials. It can literally hurt, and it can literally create holes in your uh, crude dress. So there are a lot of materials that we can use for space habitats. For example, aluminized mylar, that is a multi-layer insulation, and then we can also use high density polyethylene plastic, HDPE, Kevlar. Then we have aluminium, and there are a lot of titanium. There is aluminosilicate. There are also a lot of different materials which are being used for different purposes. And these days, there has been a lot of technological development into in situ resource utilization. That said, that how do we produce materials out of the resources available on that planetary surfaces? So for example, for Mars we have this basalt fiber. For lunar we are trying to do this 3D printing. So it's all coming up, and I think that this subject is very important for us, and also for countries in India, other countries in Asia, in developing countries, to explore more of this, because that will help us to establish human settlement presence on a planetary surface. And this is a 3D printing technology. In 3 years back, there was a company called IC ARC Plus, and they won this NASA Design Challenge. And this is an habitat called Marsha, which is being 3D printed. And this is the prototype. The company who 3D printed this is called AI Space Factory. And there is so much innovation going on at this stage. There is people, and there are architectural firms such as Big. There are architectural firms like Hazel. There are so many architectural firms these days, and also space companies who are literally building prototypes that can be built on lunar surface or on the Martian surface. And I believe that there is so much to move forward to in this sector as well. This is another part of the research development that I think we should be focusing on. This is one of my very first project. This is a 3D printed space habitat, and I had this amazing opportunity to present this project at a ICES conference. It's called International Conference on Environmental Space Systems. And the picture on the right, on the top, that is astronaut Daniel Burbank, and he has been to space on 3 shuttle missions. This is a 3D. This is a regolith construction. This is being constructed using the in situ resource utilization, using the Martian resources. This is a very basic concept, and I presented a very technical report onto this while I was presenting this design prior to this design. And I used aerogel as an insulation over here because it has a very low conductivity. It helps us to protect against the radiation. And then I used basalt fiber, which can be also produced on Martian surfaces. And then I had like a 3 floor plan. I had a floor plan which is on the below the ground, which had bedrooms and recreation area and the bathrooms, because that was the area where astronauts will spend most of the time, and it is very crucial to protect them from the radiation. And then I had the airlock. Then I had the EVA, extravehicular activity access room. Then I had the greenhouse, and I had the hydroponic system. So this was one of the few projects that I presented 3 years back. There are so many space technology developments, and the recent one is the helicopter. It takes 25 minutes to communicate from Mars to the Earth, and controlling any kind of robotic equipment from the Earth, it's a huge, huge, huge challenge. And everybody might have been aware of this recent launch, the Ingenuity helicopter on Mars by NASA. It's a very quick lens. And there are also the other recent developments are growing plants in the space. As I mentioned earlier, we also have this hydroponic system, and we also have aeroponic system. In aeroponics, we use oxygen to grow plants without much use of the soil. And also in hydroponics, we grow plants without using much of the water. And this will also help us to produce our own food. And we can also produce chickpea, we can also produce sweet potato and lettuce, this kind of plantation on another planetary surfaces, which will help us to carry less resources from the earth, which also leads us to saving the payload and the cost of launching that particular space mission. So it is very much important to also develop this kind of technologies. The most recent one from SpaceX, as we are all aware that SpaceX is doing so amazing. They came up with this Starship. They come up with reusable rockets. They are coming up with commercialization, and here I'm going to show a very amazing launch of rocket, reusable rocket.
3, 2, 1.
This is definitely a step towards
Liftoff of the Falcon 9.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 props nominal. Stage 1 entry startup. Stage 1 is transonic. Stage 1 landing we're in startup. Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Falcon 9 has landed.
It is so important. I have a personal motivation behind anything I do. That is to find the existence of ourselves. That where do we stand in the space? It is so important to find that. It is so challenging also to find that path from impossible to possible. Anything that is that anyone said that, oh, this is not achievable. I personally would like to see that how we can achieve this, how it is possible, because everything is possible. It is just that how do we perceive that vision. And uh, I think that all of that skills and capabilities also within all of us. So I want to tell everybody who is watching this conference that no matter what, how much you are educated or how much you have skills, but with development and with consistency and with an ability to learn, we all can perform tremendous things into our lives. And so I think that I should, while I was self-taughting this subject, the space architecture subject, I came across so many challenging topics. And right now there are very few courses. There are only 2 or 3 courses available to pursue space architecture education, and they're very expensive. At some point, I myself was not able to afford this course. So I came up with this idea that why not we start our own small space architecture education, because space is for everybody and knowledge is for everybody, and we must share this to everyone, because everyone on this planet has an equal right to go to learn and to pursue any career in space related subjects. So, and also there are I want to make this course as very affordable. So we came up with this course, and to also to prepare students and make people aware of this upcoming boom in the space industry. For any time we want to live in the space, we need a space habitat. This is the must thing. And to also help the students and professionals who are interested in space and to flourish them into the space industry and contribute significantly in the industry, through this they will have an equal opportunity. We came up with the space architecture course. Here are some of the contents that we are planning on in our space architecture course. The course is going to start next month. So anyone who is interested, please go to AAKA Space Studio website, go to this career page, and there you can register. You can just fill in your very quick information. You can register for the course. It's for 999 Canadian dollars, which is way more affordable than a actual space architecture course at any university. And this will give you the basics, the basic foundation to start on this path. And some of the subjects that I'm going to cover in this course is deployable structures, inflatable versus origami structures. There hasn't been any as such origami applications for space habitats ever. Everything I learned was by myself and combining a lot of different subjects. I would like to show a very small concept of origami. As you can see here, all of us, I'm pretty much sure that most of us have been using this origami paper folding technique when we were in the school. So I'm trying to develop this, how we can integrate this origami into a real space habitat. So how do we also calculating the volume, mass, and area is crucial. Designing for zero gravity, habitat functions, floor planning, system engineering, material science, construction management. How much it will cost us to build this structure, not only on the Earth, but also transport it and to build on another planetary surface, and the execution of the design. So if you want to be a space architect, before I jump onto this slide, I want to show something more. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to show you an amazing project. So at AAKA, we recently developed this ARES It is a deployable analog habitat, and we designed this using algorithms. This is a habitat that we are planning on to construct in India starting early next year. And we are integrating everything that a real space habitat will have when it will be launched towards the lunar mission or towards the Mars mission. And we are also integrating the actual hydroponic systems into this, the EVA rooms, the system engineering, everything is being calculated. And whatever we ourselves at AAKA are learning towards designing and implementing this project, we are going to share all of this crucial information into our space architecture course. So anyone who doesn't have any space background can literally start this course and start understanding from the scratch, from the planetary science, from understanding Mars and lunar atmosphere, then from the space atmosphere, from the basic designing towards system engineering, towards material selection, and so and so. And this is the current render of our project. And now I'm going to show another screen. I'm going to stop sharing and go back. So if you want to be a space architect, and if you don't want to go with this course, we came up with an amazing idea of a small space architecture competition in which everybody is invited to participate. It's a poster making competition, and this is a very quick design brief. I will be also sharing this on our web tonight on the www.arkaspacetostudio.com. So in this, we have all the aspirations and dreams related to the observable universe and ambition to explore its hidden mysteries. So we have to design an habitable space module, and this is for professionals or for students from 15 to 28 years of age group. We have to also design this debris collecting tool from the Earth's orbit, easy deployable shelter for refugees for space camps in environmental hazard prone areas. The submission requirement is like you need to present one A2 sheet with 150 dpi, present your ideas in 200 or 300 words in an abstract form with your name, education, and everything. And we have an amazing prizes coming up. We're gonna give 80% off on our courses, and also an opportunity to work in our real life project. So I hope that helps and inspire to everyone to join this sector.
Thank you so much, Aastha. That was truly inspiring indeed. I am sure that there are a lot of women in the audience and other professionals and students in the audience who would like to pursue space architecture after this session. So just moving on to the interview part, I just wanted to ask you that what are your plans for AAKA Space Studio? As you mentioned that you're soon going to establish in India as well. What is your vision, and where do you want it to be? And if people want to join your organization, what should they do next year?
That's a very good question, Shakshi, and I'm so happy to answer that. At AAKA, we are running very busy with two very crucial, important projects. One is the Lunar Space Habitat, and one is the Martian Space Habitat. And we are going to construct both of this. The lunar one is a 3D printed habitat, and the Martian one is going to be an origami deployable structure. In the next month, we are registering our farm, and we are starting up with everything setting up in India. And by the early next year, around November, December, we will be starting with our construction phase of our Martian habitat. It will take us 7 months to construct the whole habitat. Our whole team is moving to India. And then next year, around June, we are moving to Iceland, and we are going to test this habitat design in a very isolated environment, very far away from the city, very closer to the North Pole, very closer to the Arctic, and which will also have a very similar climatic conditions. For example, around minus 40 degrees Celsius, which is very much closer to the Mars temperature, but not that too close, but kind of very similar conditions. And I am going to be one of the crew members who is going to test this design. So we have a lot of opportunities coming up. And also at AAKA, we are starting with the space architecture course to make accessible to everyone at a very affordable cost. And there are other projects that are coming up. For example, AAKA AI Space Tech Clothing Wear. It's a clothing to inspire architecture, algorithms, artificial intelligence, and space. And we are coming up with a very high-tech space wear. And then we're also doing this AAKA AI exhibition where we are going to give the whole deployable structure is being constructed, we are going to transport that structure all across the globe. One of the key locations right now are in India, in SAP University, then we have in London, then we have in Vancouver, and then we have University of Berkeley. And we are going to show public a real life experience that they're standing on a Mars landscape, and then the most thriving future space habitat is being deployed. And it's going to be very interactive. We are integrating technologies like AR, VR, XR, and deep learning, and so and so.
Wow, that sounds exciting. Can't wait to see where AAKA goes next. And what is the role of space architecture in the new space age, right? Because we are talking about as you talked about SpaceX as well, and we're soon going to be on Mars. And what its role in habitats and also colonization of other planets.
Yes. So as now we have come to a point that we at least know that we are planning on to settle on lunar base and on the Mars base. Lunar base is going to be between. It's going to be like an intermediate stop to go to the Mars, because that will save a tons of our launches. Now, I will tell you exactly where space habitat plays a role. When in Artemis mission 2024, when astronauts will land on the lunar surface, they are going to conduct a lot of experiments. For example, they are going to start with 3D printing, mining, testing of the soil, and a lot of things. And to make all of these experiments a success, we need a space habitat, because when astronauts are being launched in a spaceship, it has a very small space. For example, Apollo modules, they were very small. Hardly astronauts had to sleep crossing their legs. So, due to which there are a lot of psychological factors that impacts, and we are not able to perform efficiently. So that's why we need an habitat that is very cost effective, can be deployed, and it can integrate all of these equipments, so that our mission is successful. Now that when the mission is successful, we don't have to spend more money on doing things over and over again. So, and that will also all of this scientific research till now, people ask me this question, that why do we need to invest in space research, but on investing in space research have helped us to develop a huge amount of technology on the earth. For example, the solar systems, for example, water recycling systems, food recycling systems, this hydroponic system. So many things are coming up due to space research, investing in space technology, and all of this research have been conducted into the first space habitat, that is International Space Station, and that's why we need a space habitat.
Definitely. And being a woman in, space industry yourself, and, coming from an emerging nation, like India, we know what kind of challenges we face, as a woman, or, as a young girl. So, equality and inclusiveness is so important to empower women as a whole. And what are your views on this, and, how can we achieve it in the future? I mean, you're already doing it. There are a lot of other women who are, inspiring the space industry. But, what can we do in your fields to empower them more?
Yes, so when I entered this sector, it was quite challenging, because a lot of people I met were Muslim men, and it is the same at our AAKA. It's a challenge, and it's going to be there for some more time. But there has been women who are my very strong inspiration. For example, Morgan, Joanna Morgan. She was the first female during the Apollo 11 mission in the uh, whole office, like in the whole NASA they had in their spaceport. She was the only woman. Valentina, the first woman from Russia to go to the space, and she went alone. She was launched alone. And Kalpana Chawla, Sunita Williams. There are so many. And recently, also in our Virgin Galactic, we saw 2 women also being launched in the first space mission itself. Even in the Artemis mission, there's going to be like first women landing on the moon. I don't believe that women are stronger or less. I believe that men and women both have equal rights and opportunities. What keeps us going is the vision inside of ourselves, and that is, one should never lose it. When we believe in our own vision, when we have that faith in our own vision, that will keep us motivated to pursue that vision. And when we hold on to that right track with a keen focus strongly, men and women, okay, they both can do tremendous amount of work and achieve.
Definitely. And I definitely believe in your ideology of, being equal and not like being, superior
Yes.
to one another. It's more about, getting equal opportunities than anything else. If you know about this, obviously you would, but in the year 2020, India introduced new education policy, that was based on more on skills and practicality, regardless of what we studied probably in high school or in our school. It's going to change slowly. So, and they also mentioned space in a lot of clauses in the education policy as well. So your organization is also going to introduce a course on space architecture. So how important do you think space education and just making space for everyone is important today?
It is, I think right now it is one of the most important things, because we can see that how the space race is going on. Last week, this week, Virgin Richard Branson, he launched. Then we have next week we have Jeff Bezos going on to space. Then we have this SpaceX crew launch. It's like literally, and they're also going. there are already tickets being booked for this moon orbital from a Japanese billionaire. I forgot his name right now. So we can also see how China is growing up. Like within a year, they launched this whole international space station. Every India is looking forward to their own international space station. I think space education is a very much important, because also not just space education, but it is not. It is also crucial to also make our Earth a better place overall. So when we are also developing space education, indirectly it also supports to develop better technology for the Earth. And I believe that we cannot just spoil our Earth and okay try to just escape. No, we want to develop both the ways. So I think space education, planetary science subject should be a key focus, because even when we are studying other planets, Mars was suppose is Mars has been formed before the Earth. When we understand Mars geography, we understand our Earth's geography, the soil changes and everything. So formation of our own planet, we understand that, because when we understand our other formation of other planets, and subjects like planetary science, space missions, designing for at a very cost is everything. Because any developing country or any underdeveloping country, when they're able to propose a space mission at a very cost effective rate, that's when they're winning. And we are, as you can see, that India is very famous for their Mangalyaan mission, because they did it so well at such an affordable price, and that will keep us going over and over. So this kind of subject should be definitely included. And I think the most recent should be the space law, as so many countries are going to the space, and everybody wants to kind of settle on and occupy and say that okay, we are here. So I think space law should also be considered as one of the crucial subjects in space education.
No, definitely. I think it's changing so rapidly. Like I could just see the space law coming up on my LinkedIn all the time, or like even space architecture. This is a whole introduction of so many areas. In space is basically a sign that space industry is growing, and it's going to be the next big thing in the upcoming years. And talking about the space industry, the commercialization, even the ISRO's project on Indian space station that's going to happen soon. There is a boom that is going on in this 2 years. There have been a boom. So what are your opinions on not only government and corporate collaboration, because I think ISRO opened doors on commercial space, the private players, right, and their role in developing the whole space ecosystem in India?
I think there should be a, while working in the space sector in the last few years, I figured out that we need to have a bigger budget for because I haven't seen any of the countries. I don't know. I don't have enough idea about other Asian country, but we don't really have a very good budget towards space development, and that is we are lacking behind. So a good budget over space development should be must from the government bodies. And I think commercialization is already happening now. It's not that something gonna come. It's already happening. So, um, and yes, as US always, as NASA always say, that space is for everybody. And I also personally believe that space is for everybody. So there should be an enough allocation for the budget to develop such technology. One of the key challenges that I face at AAKA is because it's a startup, and we are all new, coming together with our own resources. Now to acquire funds for our project is a huge challenge. And so many people who want to develop this kind of things, they are make it commercialization. They are not able to step into this thing because they're kind of afraid that they wouldn't get enough funding for their project, and that is a huge challenge. Now there are opportunities coming for these private startups to fund them and help them to develop their technology, and it's coming, but yes, it's booming.
No, definitely. I think just looking at how India is developing, even other Asian countries and other emerging nations, the kind of conversation I've had, with other speakers, it's going to be even in just by end of this year, I think we are going to have so many things, add-ons in the commercial space as well. And what is your one advice? This is the last serious question, and then we'll move to a little bit of fun part. So, what is your one advice you would like to give to students and young professionals in the audience who wants to, work in the space industry, as your journey been extraordinary? Like, what advice do you want to give to these students?
Uh, that is, I love to answer this question every time I go into any conference or when I'm speaking at a public stage, because I am myself come from such a situation. Now, I will like to share my experience. So the first time when I went to propose my project at his ICS conference, I was the one of I think I was the only one who was not from the space background, and all the other students from MIT, Harvard, Stanford, some top universities coming with their own projects, studying. They were already studying space related subjects, and I was presenting to astronaut Daniel Burbank, and I was literally going. I was of course nervous, and I didn't know if I was on a right track or not. But I think that the courage to pursue your dreams should never go away, because even if you don't have the confidence, but that courage will help you to stand there and participate. And I think we are all learning. There is no one is ever best. We are all learning. It's a continuous process, and it's okay to make mistakes. But if something is really very important to you, you go all the way into it. There is no turning back. And if you start something, we must keep our goal into our mind, no matter how. Even if Thomas Edison, let's say for example, 999 experiments were failed, but the 1001 was a success. So sometimes many people, I've seen many people that they're like almost on the last step of the ladder, but then they turn away. So to conclude, first, keep the courage to your vision. Second, never ever give up. And third, you are always going to achieve that because you have that skill and capability inside of you. Yes,
Thank
that's
you
all.
for that wonderful answer, Astha. Definitely, I think the one key I follow as well is to never give up, because I know that there's going to be a struggle. That's the reality of life. But there's one thing: if you're really passionate about something, you have to follow on it. So, just moving on to a very fun question, I asked this to everyone: what is the one sci-fi movie or something like that that inspired you to be in the space industry?
Oh my God, this question I have. It is. This is the most not fun, but the most complicated question for me because I never really watched any such sci-fi movie. I was watching this Marvel movies all the time, like Iron Man, and I was watching those kind of movies. But I really never watched. Interstellar is one of my favorite one recently. Yes, and then The Martian is also one of the like movies I like. But I got inspired to enter space from my NASA academy because when I saw what kind of things NASA was doing, like it was so out of the box. It was not ordinary. It was something extraordinary. It was something that you just never know. You are jumping in a pool where you don't know how to swim, and then you are trying to learn how to swim. And that experience, to gain that experience of finding that pathway, I got attached. I got fascinated by that thing, that I want to experience something which I don't know, and I want to learn, and I want those challenges will keep me thriving for the life. Because in the end, we are humans. We are the most intelligent social animals on this planet. And why not just eat and why we should just eat and sleep and have fun? Why should we not thrive for our life? Why we should not live for a purpose? Why we should not leave our imprints? Why we should not leave something that other generations can utilize it? And that is where my personal motivation towards space is. But sci-fi movie, sorry, but Interstellar is one of my favorite one. I also like
No.
Gravity,
Yeah.
so I've been watching.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I have watched every sci-fi movie there is, so I cannot relate to that. But yeah, the one thing I want to also ask you is that because you're working on so many architectural projects and all of these things, so this is sort of a fun technical question. But like, what technology, like sci-fi technology, or like what technology, that futuristic technology or futuristic architectural project you want to become into reality? Yeah.
So the technology that I would like to integrate into my habitat.
Yeah, something that you want it to
Yes.
become a reality. Yeah.
That is the deep learning, because recently I came across, so when we are selecting materials for the habitat, or when we are deciding some functions for the habitat, it is very challenging to decide from a human brain perspective, because we have to do a lot of calculations for that. I wouldn't, because I haven't watched any such sci-fi movies, so I wouldn't say in terms of sci-fi movie, but I will say in terms of technology perspective, emerging technology perspective. So deep learning, machine learning is coming, and I would really like to see how machines can make a definite choice into deciding the correct output. And the other thing is robotics. I'm very much looking forward to. So we are also going to construct this our own habitat, Mars habitat, using an industrial robot in Ahmedabad. So I'm very much keen to understand, study, and also see that how robotics can perform and build on another planetary surface, which is already being started in use of 3D printing. That is another technology that I'm looking forward to. And the third one is the VR and XR, because when they help at a huge extent towards the psychological factors. So when astronauts are away from the Earth, they feel homesick, and there are a lot of challenges that they go through psychologically. So when they have this VR technology where they can feel like an Earth home-like environment, they can really happy doing their task during their stay. So that's some technology I'm looking forward to.
All right. Thank you, Asta. Thank you for joining us today. This has been incredible for me. Just talking to a fellow space professional, and also someone who is of my age. But no, I think a lot of young people, just like you, or will be inspired after looking at this session, and like nothing, and it will tell them that nothing is stopping them to pursue their dreams. So thank you so much, Asta. Thank you so much for joining us. We will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Shakshi, and see you soon. Thank you, everyone.
So we are going to have our next sessions on at 2:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. today. I will